When we speak about love, we often speak about it as though it were something we could own, something we could grasp tightly in our hands and keep forever. But the truth is, love was never meant to be possessed. The moment we try to hold it too tightly, it begins to slip through our fingers like sand. Love is not a cage, it's a breeze. It's something that moves freely, something that breathes. To love someone deeply does not mean to claim them. It means to recognize the miracle of their presence in your life and to let them exist as they are, unbound, unconfined, and free. You see, we've been taught from a very young age that love must come with attachment, that to love someone means to make them ours. But that kind of love is not love at all. It's possession. It's the ego trying to turn another human being into a reflection of its own desires. And in doing so, we suffocate the very thing we claim to adore. When you say, "You are mine," you are not expressing love, you are expressing fear. Fear that they might leave, fear that you might be alone, fear that without them, you are incomplete. But love that depends on fear is fragile. It cannot survive. When you love without attachment, you begin to see the other person for who they truly are, not for what they provide you. You no longer love them because they make you happy. You love them because their existence itself is beautiful. You stop asking, "What do I get from this person?" And instead you begin to ask, "What can I give?" That's when love becomes sacred. It's no longer a transaction. It's a gift. To love without attachment means to allow love to be as vast as the sky, not confined within the walls of your expectations. It means to see love as an energy that flows through you, not something you can store away. When you try to possess it, you destroy its nature. Just as you cannot trap the wind in a jar, you cannot trap love within the boundaries of ownership. The moment you do, it ceases to be love, it becomes control. Look around at the way most people love. There's always a hidden "if." I will love you if you stay, if you don't change, if you keep loving me the same way. But love with conditions is not love. It's a contract. And contracts may keep you safe, but they will never make you free. Real love is freedom. It allows the other to be as they are, even when that means they must walk a different path. It trusts the natural flow of life. Because if love is real, it doesn't need to be forced. It doesn't need chains to remain. And when you understand this, something incredible happens. You stop chasing permanence, and you start appreciating presence. You begin to realize that love isn't about forever, it's about now. You learn to savor the fleeting moments, the laughter, the silence, the subtle glances that can only exist in this very instant. The beauty of love lies not in its duration, but in its depth. And the more you try to make it last, the more you lose the essence of what it was meant to be. To love without attachment is to love courageously, because it demands that you open your heart without knowing if it will be held or broken. But that's the risk that makes love alive. If you only love with the guarantee of return, then what you feel is not love, it's security. Love is the willingness to give your heart without asking for anything in return. And in that vulnerability, you discover your strength, because only the one who is free within can love freely. When you let go of possession, you allow love to mature. You begin to see that love doesn't diminish when you release it. It expands. It reaches beyond the boundaries of the self, beyond the need to own or be owned. You stop being afraid of losing people, because you realize you never truly had them in the first place. You only ever had moments with them, beautiful, living moments that exist in the space between two souls. And those moments are enough. The paradox is that when you no longer cling, love stays. It stays not because you forced it, but because it feels safe in your openness. When people know they are free to go, they often choose to stay. When love is not demanded, it is offered. And what is offered freely is always more genuine than what is taken by force. So, to love without attachment is not to love less. It's to love more purely. It is to love in a way that liberates both you and the other person. It's to say, I see you. I don't need to own you. I simply love that you exist. That is the highest form of love. The kind that doesn't seek to grasp but to understand, not to possess but to appreciate, not to imprison but to let free. Because when love is free, it doesn't end. It transforms. It becomes part of everything. And that is when you realize love was never something to hold. It was always something to be. To love without attachment does not mean to shut yourself off from emotion. It doesn't mean becoming cold, distant, or detached from the beauty of connection. It means something far deeper. The ability to love fully, without the weight of expectations. Most people confuse attachment with love, thinking that if they care deeply, they must also hold tightly. But love is not a chain that binds, it's a space that allows both souls to breathe. When you let go of expectations, love becomes lighter, purer, and infinitely more peaceful. Attachment is rooted in the idea that love must give us something, security, validation, or comfort. We cling to the idea that the other person must behave a certain way, must stay, must return our affection in equal measure. But that is not love, that is a deal. And when love becomes transactional, it loses its essence. The truth is, you can't demand love, you can only invite it. You can't mold someone into your idea of who they should be and still call that love. Because the moment you do, you've stopped seeing them for who they are and started seeing only your reflection in them. To love without attachment means you stop expecting others to fill the spaces within you that you have not yet filled yourself. You stop measuring love by how much attention you receive or how often someone reassures you. You start realizing that the purpose of love is not to fix your loneliness, but to help you discover beauty within your solitude. When you love from fullness, you are no longer needy, you are giving from abundance, not desperation. You are no longer trying to control what love gives you, but allowing it to unfold naturally. Expectations are the silent destroyers of love. They create a kind of tension that pulls joy out of the simplest moments. You expect them to text, to call, to stay, to understand, and when they don't, your mind begins to suffer. But the suffering doesn't come from their actions, it comes from your own mental image of what they should have done. You fall in love with an idea, not a person. To love without attachment is to let go of those ideas, to stop demanding that love follow a script. Love has no script. It doesn't move in straight lines or predictable patterns. It's wild, spontaneous, and alive. That's what makes it real. Think of a flower. It blooms not because it expects anything from the sun or the rain, but simply because that is its nature. Love is the same. When you love freely, you give because love itself moves through you. You don't give to receive, you give because giving feels natural. And the beautiful irony is, when you stop expecting love in return, it flows back to you in ways you never imagined. Because people can sense when they are loved freely, without pressure, without fear. They feel safe in your presence because you're not trying to pull anything from them. You're simply there, open, giving, allowing. This kind of love doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop wanting or stop feeling. It simply means you accept what is, rather than clinging to what should be. You see, the difference between attachment and love is the difference between grasping and holding gently. When you grasp, you create tension. When you hold gently, there is grace. Love, in its purest form, is graceful. It doesn't demand that the other person stays. It only invites them to share the journey for as long as they wish to walk beside you. The moment you release expectations, you create space. Space for growth, for understanding, for truth. You start seeing the other person as an individual, not a projection of your desires. You begin to appreciate their differences, their freedom, their changes. You no longer panic when they pull away slightly, because you understand that distance doesn't mean disconnection. You trust the rhythm of love, its ebb and flow. You stop chasing constant reassurance and start finding peace in the silent presence of what simply is. Many people fear this kind of love because it feels uncertain. They think that without expectations, love will drift away. But the opposite is true. Love without expectations is the only kind of love that endures. It doesn't crumble when the circumstances change, because it was never built on conditions to begin with. It exists freely, like the wind, invisible, yet undeniably there. When you let go of expectations, something extraordinary happens inside you. You start to notice love in everything. In the way sunlight falls through the trees, in the sound of laughter, in the quiet understanding between souls who need no words. You realize that love was never something to seek from others. It's something that flows from within you and finds its reflection in the world. You don't love to get love back. You love because to love is your natural state. And when you love in this way, unattached, unafraid, you no longer feel the constant anxiety of loss. You stop worrying about endings because you are too present in the beauty of the moment. You stop trying to predict where the story will go and begin to cherish every line as it unfolds. Love becomes less about ownership and more about awareness. You realize that the only thing you can truly give is your presence, your full, open, honest presence, and that is enough. To love without attachment is not to withhold emotion, but to give it freely, without asking it to perform. It is to let love move through you like a song, not to control its melody, but to let it play. And when you do, you discover that love was never fragile. It was only your expectations that made it feel that way. When you let go of how you think love should be, you finally experience it as it truly is. Vast, boundless, and beautifully free. Before you can love another without attachment, you must first discover the wholeness within yourself. Most people enter relationships from a place of incompleteness. They look at love as a remedy, as something to fill the emptiness inside them. They say, "I need someone to make me feel whole," without realizing that the very act of needing someone to complete you creates dependency, not love. When you love from a state of lack, your love becomes hunger, and hunger can never truly be satisfied. It only keeps asking for more. To love without attachment, you must first understand yourself deeply, honestly, completely. You must see the parts of you that are lonely, fearful, or uncertain and embrace them, instead of hiding behind another person. Because what often happens is that we project our unhealed parts onto those we love. We make them responsible for our happiness, our peace, our sense of worth. But that's too much weight for anyone to carry. Love cannot flourish under that pressure. It suffocates. When you cultivate inner wholeness, you begin to realize that love is not something you go out and find, it's something you radiate. It is not a transaction between two empty beings, but a sharing between two overflowing ones. Only when you are comfortable being alone can you truly love another person freely. Otherwise, your love becomes a subtle form of fear. Fear of being without them, fear of being unseen, fear of not being enough. That fear disguises itself as passion or attachment, but underneath it is insecurity, and no relationship built on insecurity can last in peace. Think of love as a dance. If both dancers are balanced within themselves, they move together effortlessly. They complement each other's rhythm without trying to control it. But if one depends on the other for balance, the dance becomes unstable. Love works in the same way. Two complete souls can meet, move, and flow together in harmony. They don't hold on to each other for balance. They create balance through their togetherness. And when the dance ends, there's no resentment, because both know that their completeness was never dependent on the other. When you know yourself, love becomes less about possession and more about presence. You no longer enter relationships with the question, what can I get? But rather, what can I share? You no longer seek to be loved to feel worthy, you already know your worth. And from that place, love becomes something beautiful. Not because it fills you, but because it reflects what's already inside you. You start to see that your capacity to love others grows in direct proportion to your ability to love yourself. Most of our suffering in love comes from forgetting this truth. We believe that love is something external, that it exists in another person, in their attention, in their approval. But that illusion always leads to pain, because when they change or when they leave, we feel lost. We feel like a part of us has been taken away. But if love truly lives inside you, no one can take it from you. They can walk away, yes, but love remains, not as a memory of them, but as a living force within you. Wholeness means realizing that you don't need anyone to complete you, but you can still deeply enjoy companionship. It means you don't depend on someone for happiness, but you can still share joy together. It means you don't cling out of fear, but you stay out of choice. And that kind of love, the love born from freedom, is the only love that can last without causing suffering. You begin to understand that love is not about merging into another person. It's about meeting them at the intersection of two complete lives. You both bring your own worlds, your own depth, your own light, and together you create something greater, not because you're missing something, but because you're already whole. Love then becomes a mirror through which you see more of yourself, not a crutch to hide your emptiness. To love without attachment, you must first learn to sit with yourself in silence, to be comfortable in your own company. The more you know yourself, the less you fear losing someone else. Because when you find peace within, you realize that love doesn't leave when people do. It only changes form. It remains in the quiet understanding, in the growth you experience, in the gratitude that someone once walked beside you. This realization doesn't make love weaker, it makes it infinitely stronger. It turns love into something vast, something that doesn't cling, doesn't demand, doesn't break when change comes. It allows you to say, I love you, without the hidden meaning of, I need you. And that difference changes everything. When two people who are whole within themselves meet, there is no dependency. There is harmony. They walk side by side, not because they must, but because they choose to. Their love doesn't trap them, it liberates them. It gives them the courage to grow, to evolve, to explore. Because they know that love doesn't mean losing oneself in another. It means finding a deeper sense of self through connection. When you stop searching for someone to complete you, you become capable of loving from a place of abundance. Not fear, not loneliness, not need. You stop trying to hold love in your hands and instead let it flow through you. And in doing so, you discover the purest truth. That real love is not two halves becoming whole, but two wholes becoming one for a while, only to continue expanding on their own paths, grateful, open, and free. Because love was never meant to fill your emptiness. It was meant to awaken your fullness.